Tengah Garden Residences is being called the cheapest new launch of the year. If you have been scrolling property news this week, you have seen the headlines about the starting price. The headlines cover the price. What they don't cover is your downside and what your exit looks like 4 to 7 years from now. Those are worth working through properly. Let's go. Quick map of what's coming. First, the basics. 90 seconds on the project, so we are all on the same page. Second, 3 concerns I hear from buyers and how I'll think about each one. Third, I'll run Tengah Garden Residences through my clear framework, CLEAR. Fourth, a floor plan walkthrough across the 2-bedder, 3-bedder and a 4-bedder. And finally, who I think this project is for and isn't for. One quick thing before we start, if this is the kind of breakdown you want before making a property decision, hit the subscribe button so the next one lands in your feed. Basics first, 90 seconds on Tengah Garden Residences, 863 units, 99-year leasehold sitting on Tengah Garden Avenue, a joint venture between Hong Leong, Guaco Land and CSE Land. Land secured at 821 per square foot per plot ratio. Hold that number, it matters later. A residential with 3,000 square meter of commercial space on the first level, sheltered walkway to Hong Kah MRT right next door, 2 neighborhood centers within Tengah Town. Unit mix in Tengah Garden Residences run from 1-bedder to 4-bedder. Pricing starts from 1,779 PSF. 1-bedder starts from 980, 2-bed compact from 1.1 mil, and 3-bed compact from 1.588 mil, and 4-bed from 2.28 mil. All 4 Jurong Region Line stations inside Tengah are operational by 2028. You collect your keys in late 2029 or early 2030. Connectivity will be in place before you move in. ECS Primary relocates to Tengah in 2030 and becomes co-ed for the first time in its history, accepting girls alongside boys. That's the brief. Now let's look at whether the price makes sense. 3 concerns I've heard from buyers. Let me name them first. Concern 1, Tengah feels far and ulu. It's super unfamiliar to a lot of people. No existing private condo stock, no established lifestyle anchors. Unfamiliar tend to equal ulu in many buyers' head. Concern 2, there's a hospital being built right opposite Tengah Garden Residences. The new Tengah General and Community Hospital is slated to be ready by early 2030, and some buyers are worried about the view, whether the hospital-facing stacks hold their value. Concern 3, Tengah sits right next to the MRT. Hong Kah station is literally right next door. Great for connectivity, but for some buyers, they are concerned about train noise, especially for the stacks closest to the line. Let's work through each one. On the ulu point, you are probably thinking 1779 PSF starting price for a town with no track record. That's a lot of faith, and I get that. But here's the thing, when people say Tengah feels ulu, what they usually mean is unfamiliar. They have not been there. There's no memory of going there to eat or meet friends. That's real and a very valid feeling, but I would say that's more of a feeling, not so much on the fact about the property or the township. Now the actual infrastructure. With new towns, the usual pattern is residents first, amenities later. You move in, then you wait for years for the town to catch up. Punggol is the clearest example. Early residents waited 5 to 10 years for the town to fill up. Tengah Garden Residences is the opposite. By the time you collect your keys in the late 2029 or early 2030, all 4 Jurong Region Line stations inside Tengah have been running since 2028. ACS Primary opens the same year you move in. Plantation Plaza and Park Point are already operational with FairPrice, Polyclinic and food court. You are not waiting for the town to be built around you. You are moving into a town that's already running. So the question isn't whether Tengah feels ulu now, it's whether that feeling fades between now and your exit. Onto the hospital. You see hospital opposite and your instinct says problem, and that's fair. So let me show you what actually happens when a condo sits across a hospital. The Vales at Sengkang, directly opposite Sengkang General Hospital. I pulled the transaction specifically for the hospital facing stacks. Block 81, Block 83, Block 85, Block 87. The ones with the direct line of sight to the hospital. And let me flash the data on screen. Every single transaction is profitable. Profits up to 680k on those stacks alone. Now here's the difference for Tengah Garden Residences. The hospital facing blocks are angled, not parallel, less direct exposure than the Vales, and the Vales still delivered those numbers. One more thing, a hospital is also a structural tenant source. Doctors, nurses and healthcare staff rent near work. The same feature that concerns some buyers is what feeds rental demand for others. On the MRT noise, yes, Tengah Garden Residences sits right beside Hong Kah MRT. Trains at your stretch are either pulling in or pulling out. Station speed and not full speed. The loud stretches are usually between stations and not at them. On top of that, the blocks are orientated more to north-south facing. Living spaces are actually facing away from the line. And LTA shared that they are putting noise barrier along the viaducts. Will every unit have zero noise? I would say no. The stacks closest to the line will be priced at a discount to reflect that. That's my take, but we will see on booking day. And of course, as buyers, you've got options on your exposure. If you are very sensitive to noise, you can pick those stacks that are further away from the tracks or angled away. Something we can't really deny is definitely the convenience of having an MRT right beside you, fully sheltered. Rain or shine, you can commute in and out without a brolly. That's really the beauty of it. So, let's get to the clear framework. This is how I break down the projects that I review. C for comparable, past resale, current launches. L for location and livability. We'll talk about connectivity, schools and lifestyle. E for entry price support. We'll cover quantum, PSF versus land cost and the downside protection if the market softens. A for appeal, demand from own stay occupiers and tenants, including rentability for investment buyers. R for resale exit, headroom for capital growth and your exit timeline. Let's dive in. Comparables. Before comparing PSF, a quick adjustment. Different projects have different leases, different harmonization status, different MRT proximity. So we normalize them to get a more fair comparison. I use 3 adjustments. Let me show you the assumptions on the screen. Lease adjustment, I use the SLA leasehold decay table, also known as the Ballas table. For each year of lease remaining, it tells you what percentage of a fresh 99-year value that property regains. GFA harmonization range 5 to 11%. I will use 8% as the midpoint. Projects approved before 2023 had bay windows, planters, and aircon ledges counted differently. Developers got to include that space in your sellable square footage. So you pay PSF on square footage that was partly made up of features that you couldn't fully live in. After 2023, those features don't count anymore. Every square foot you buy is livable floor area. That means when you compare an older project's PSF to TGR PSF directly, it wouldn't be a very fair comparison. The older project's PSF is sitting on some space that doesn't quite translate to daily living, and 8% uplift adjusts for that just to make the comparison more like for like. MRT walkability. The range could be 80 to 150 PSF depending on the type of access. Tengah Garden Residences has a sheltered covered walkway to Hong Kah MRT that earns the upper end around 120 to 150 PSF when comparing against project with no MRT walkability at all. Now let's apply this. Comparables, I put past resale and current launches in this corridor. Past resale, 3 completed projects in the Jurong corridor, Lakefront Residences, Lakeview and Lake Grand, all 99 years leasehold, all pre-harmonization. I put the last 12 months of transactions. Lakefront averages 1696 PSF, Lakeview averages 1776 PSF, and Lake Grand averages 1861 PSF. On the average, all 3 look cheaper than TGR, but it's not quite that straightforward. These projects have already clocked 13 to 16 years of their lease, and because they were approved before GFA harmonization, a portion of what you're paying PSF on sits in bay window, planters, and aircon ledges, space that doesn't quite translate to a livable floor area. Once we adjust for both, that's where they actually land in terms of TGR terms. Lakefront, Lakeview, Lake Grand normalized to around 1910 to 2050 PSF. Present launches. Sora at Yuan Ching Road is currently transacting between 2,200 and 2,527 PSF depending on unit type, and Lake Garden Residences at 1,988 to 2,181 is almost sold out. Only 9 units left as of this week. Both are projects with their own merit. Tengah Garden Residences is starting from 1,779, well below both. Connectivity and retail I've covered in the brief. Let me focus on what I haven't touched yet, the lifestyle. The waterfront setting along Tengah Pond gives residents a reason to step outside most days. A mid to high floor unit overlooking the green is something a future buyer can see at viewing, which usually holds up in price conversations. Schools. ACS I mentioned earlier. Pioneer Primary School in Tengah is one of the only 15 primary schools in Singapore selected to host MOE's new Advanced Modules program, replacing the old Gifted Education program. That program starts in 2027, a rare access point for high ability learners in the West Catchment. One more thing worth flagging is that United World College has confirmed their Tengah campus right beside their hospital, walking distance from Tengah Garden Residences. UWC isn't a generic international brand. It's one of Singapore's most established names in international education. Families enrolling typically rent close to school. TGR is as close as it gets. All three will be up and running around the time you collect keys. That's when catchment proximity and rental demand start to matter. Liveability details like bathroom ventilation I'll cover in the floor plan walkthrough. Next, E. Entry price support. E asks one question. What if something goes wrong? How exposed are you on your way down? For TGR, 2 data points tell you where the floor sits. First, the land cost gap. TGR land was 821 per square foot per plot ratio. The most recent confirmed land benchmark nearby is Lakeside Drive, which CDR won in June 2025 at $1,132. That's $311 above TGR's land. So developer building on Lakeside Drive has to price higher than TGR just to cover their land costs alone. No new launch in this west corridor comes in cheaper than what you're looking at right now. Second, what that actually means for launch pricing. To answer that, I'll pull from a tracker that I've been maintaining. GLS, land sale, and launches in these 2 years. OCR, RCR, and CCR. Land cost, break even, actual launch PSF, markup percentage calculated for each one. Across the recent OCR launches, the average markup above break-even is 28%. HPROP estimates Lakeside Drive break-even at $1,996. Apply the average 28% OCR markup from break-even, that's about 2,554 PSF. Now apply the average 136% OCR markup from land cost, that's 2,671, which means Lakeside Drive launch could possibly land between 2,005 plus to 2,006 plus PSF. But don't quote me, this is just based on market estimate percentage markup. TGR starts from 1,779 PSF. Assume an average launch of around 2,000 PSF. That's about $500 to $600 below the next Jurong launch. So what does that mean for you? At 1,779, you don't need TGR to be the best deal today. The next launches will do that work for you. That said, not every unit is a buy. The high floor units behave differently from the lower floor MRT track facing stack. Stack selection still matters. If you have found the breakdown useful so far, a like tells YouTube to show you more analysis like this to you. Next, appeal and resale exit together. Owner-occupier appeal. By 2030, roughly 12,000 Tengah BTO households have reached MOP. In general, around 15% of MOP sellers look to upgrade within the same estate. Familiarity, kids school, proximity to parents. Apply that to Tengah's 12,000 household, and that's roughly 1,800 potential upgraders searching within Tengah alone. And we have not included the HDB upgraders possibly coming from Jurong, Choa Chu Kang, and Bukit Batok. And the tenant appeal, 4 main tenant pools in this corridor. Jurong Innovation District for engineers, researchers, and tech professionals. Jurong Lake District for office workers. International schools in the west for expat families. And the hospital I mentioned earlier for doctors, nurses, and healthcare staff. For investment buyers, these are 4 distinct rental demand sources for you. This diversification matters for occupation stability. For the exit, the window for most buyers here is 4 to 7 years after TOP. The ECs nearby have hit their 5-year mark and the surrounding launches have set higher benchmark. There is also a 5th MRT station coming, the infill station announced by LTA in March, targeted for the mid-2030s. That lines up with when most buyers entering today would be looking at their exit. Something to keep in mind when you think about who buys your unit next. Now let's walk through the floor plans. The 1 beta only has 6 units in the entire development, so I will skip the floor plan comparison and focus on the unit types most of you are looking at. For the 2-bedroom layout, TGR offers 3 meaningful configurations. One thing the developer got right across all of them, even at 624 square feet on the 2-bed 1 bath, you already get a semi-enclosed kitchen. At this size, most developers give you an open single-side gallery kitchen. This TGR layout is dumbbell, both bedrooms on opposite sides, living area in the center, good cross ventilation and privacy between the two bedrooms. The one bath variant has a bigger common bedroom because the space that will go to a second bathroom goes to the bedroom instead. Distance from main entrance to the balcony door 8.3 meters. Two bath option gives you a second toilet, but the bedroom 2 is smaller. We give and take. 2 bed plus study at 753 square feet is the show flat unit. Bedroom 2 is smaller at 8 square meter to make space for the study. The entrance to the balcony 9.3 meters. You feel the extra depth when you walk in. How I'll think about it. Couples or single occupants wanting bedroom space, go with the one bath. Work from home and need a dedicated zone, I would think the 2 plus study. If you don't like to queue or fight for a toilet in the morning, go with the 2 bath. One trade-off across all 2 bedders, there's no natural ventilation in the bathroom. Mechanical ventilation only. So if windowed bathroom are important to you, that's something to note for the 2 bedder. Onto the 3 bedder, wide range of configurations here. One thing consistent across every 3 bed variant, natural ventilation in all bathrooms. Starting point is the compact at 797 square feet dumbbell layout. I would think it's a smart move at this size. It cuts the wasted corridor that the traditional layout would need. Type 3B onward steps up to a proper enclosed kitchen with a window. Type 3D adds a store on top of the enclosed kitchen layout. Type 3E onwards is the premium territory. This is where the livability step up happens. Living width opens up to 3 meter. Within the premiums, the choice depends on what you value most. If you like bigger L-shaped kitchen, go for the Type 3E, 3H and 3I. Bigger living and dining, go for Type 3K, 3F, 3G, 3J. Walk-through wardrobe, you have your 3H, 3I, 3J, 3K. One more thing about the premiums, the 1012 and 1023 square feet layouts in Block 13 sit side by side with the widest block-to-block distance in the entire development. With 863 units on this site, this kind of block-to-block distance is a gem. I was discussing with my buyers that day. It feels like these 2 stacks are kind of like everyone's top choice. So if your ballot queue gets you there and it's within your budget, snatch these 2 stacks unit. I think they will be super popular even in the resale market next time. Onto the 4 bedroom. For many Singaporean families, 4 bedroom is less a luxury and more a practical need. 2 kids, each wanting their own room plus a study. So now onto the layouts. The standard sits at around 1130 square feet. Living and dining with 3.2 meter. L-shaped kitchen with a window. This layout is clever. 4th bedroom cascade against the master instead of extending the corridor. What that does is they kill away the dead hallway space. Traditional 4 bedroom runs all 4 bedroom down one corridor that eats 80 to 100 square feet of pure circulation. Cascading cuts the corridor short and gives back that space back to the living and dining. The 4-bed premium at 1259 square feet Type 4E is the show flat unit. This layout is really lovely. I'm impressed by how much is packed inside this 1259 square feet. The living and dining width opens to 3.4 meters. Living area at 36 square meter. Central walkway kitchen with counters on both sides. 12 square meter fronted by an L-shaped glass partition. You get visual openness of an open kitchen, smell containment of an enclosed one. Master bedroom has a walk-through wardrobe. You have your yard, household shelter, WC at the kitchen. And bedroom 2 and 3 share a Jack and Jill bathroom. So master has its own ensuite. Bedroom 2 has the common bathroom. Bedroom 3 and 4 share the Jack and Jill. 3 full bathroom plus a WC for 4 bedrooms. If everyone needs to do their morning business at once, everyone's got a toilet bowl. There's also a premium variant at 1249 square feet, Type 4G. The trade-off between the 2 premiums come down to the living space versus the kitchen. The 1259 gives you the bigger living area at 36 square meter with a 12 square meter double side gallery kitchen. The 1249 gives you a bigger L-shaped kitchen at 14 square meter, but your living area comes down to 33 square meter. So it depends on where you spend more time. If you cook a lot and need counter space, 1249. If you can entertain and want a bigger living room, go with the 1259. How I'll think about it. The 1130 standard is the lower quantum play. The cascading layout means you are not sacrificing livability for the price point. 1259 with the central walkway kitchen and Jack and Jill is the full kit. The 1249 with the bigger kitchen is for household where cooking is a bigger part of their daily life. 4-bedder has the same ventilation advantage as the 3-bedder. Every bathroom window, kitchen window. So who is this for? If you are an own stay buyer comfortable with a town that is still forming, brand new lease, MRT at your doorstep, waterfront living, school catchment strengthening. If you are an investor with SSD now at 4 years, your free sale window period opens right around TOP. That's the same window when the MOP wave I mentioned earlier peaks and those households start looking at private stock. And who is Tengah Garden Residences not for? I would say probably not for you if you need an established neighborhood from day one, or if you commute daily to the east and the regional line doesn't fit your routine, or if you want a lower density project. At 863 units, TGR is a mega development. Whether TGR fits depends on your situation, own stay, investment, your timeline, what's already in your portfolio, your family lifestyle. There's no universal answer. If you're still wondering or if you have a unit in mind, feel free to reach out to me at this number. We can sit down for a chat and run through some numbers to give you some clarity so you know where your downside sits before you commit. If this is the kind of breakdown you want before making a property decision, hit subscribe so the next one lands in your feed. I'm Vicky. See you next time.